In this series, I will be showing you how I illustrated my most recent picture book project from start to finish. Hi, I'm Haley or Faye, and I'm an illustrator. I've done a lot of toy design in my career, working on toy lines such as Funko Pops and Disney Darlings. I've also worked on books like Rowan Goes to the Beach, Rowan Goes to the Park, and the Rowan Goes Activity Book. And now, my most recent picture book project, Candy's Colorful World, written by Michael Oatley. I'm so excited to take you along on my journey of illustrating this wonderful book. Now, these videos will kind of be a compilation of me in the past during my illustration process and me now kind of filling in the gaps that I didn't get while I was filming back then. I'm hoping I can stitch these videos together for you guys to make it make sense and make it flow nicely. I promise I will do my best. Before we get into the process of how I illustrated the book, I want to tell you a little bit about the story. So it's called Candy's Colorful World, written by Michael Oatley, and the summary for the book is this. Have you ever felt that calling inside that there must be something more out there, but didn't know what it was or how to find it? Candy the chameleon lives in the shadows of a world painted in shades of gray, and her heart aches for a splash of something brighter. Feeling utterly alone in her monochrome existence, Candy dreams of a world bursting with vibrancy, but doesn't know where to even begin her search. Then, one shimmering afternoon, a wise and colorful dragonfly notices Candy's quiet longing. Sensing her yearning, he offers to guide her on an eye-opening adventure through their seemingly gray world. Together, they embark on a journey to discover the hidden hues in unexpected places. Through her friendship with the dragonfly, Candy not only witnesses the dazzling spectrum of the world around her, but also begins to discover the unique and vibrant colors that have always lived within her own heart. So after reading the full written script that he had given me, I loved it immediately. I really liked Candy. I liked the idea of her dragonfly friend. I love how she goes from a gray world eventually to a colorful world because she's brave enough to find something more in this world. It feels almost spiritual and kind of deep for a children's book character, but I absolutely love that. So now is the point where we start the illustration process, and the first part is character creation. Doing a character design for the main character of the story really helps the author to get a good sense of how you might design the rest of the book. So of course, Candy is a chameleon, and I had never drawn a chameleon before, so I had to do a little bit of research. I mostly went on Pinterest to find images of chameleons in different poses so that I could understand a little bit about their anatomy. I was also looking at illustrations of chameleons because I wanted to learn from how others approached styling a chameleon. So after doing some research, I had a good idea of how I might design my own character for Candy. I made the whole book on Procreate, so this is a little time lapse of me trying to figure out what Candy would look like. I started out with a lot of simple designs. I made her kind of graphic, like not that much detail at first. I also did her little dragonfly friend to kind of picture how they would look together. These ones look very young, like they're little kids. Having a young main character is always a good idea, I think, for picture books. So that was my first approach, and then I started going into something where maybe she's an older chameleon or a teenager or something bigger, and I was exploring how the proportions of maybe her eyes would be smaller to make her look a little bit older. Her legs could be longer compared to her body. Then I kind of went back to maybe a babyish looking chameleon here. I keep messing with her for a little bit, and then I went into just exploring, kind of merging different ideas into clear designs to show Michael. I started color here. I decided to make her just green as a base, at least for the character design phase. And then by the end of it, this was the first pass that I showed Michael. And then this was the second pass exploration, where I go more into detail about what her pattern on her body would look like, just little details like maybe the anatomy on her spine is curved and scalloped like this, or maybe it's just one curve like this, just kind of finalizing and getting into the details of what the character would have. Over here, I was having fun with the pattern on her back. I wanted there to be maybe 7 stripes or something representing 7 because she's getting 7 colors on her journey. I kind of wanted each stripe to change as she gains each color. So the first one would start as red and then orange and yellow and so on. Down here, I was figuring out different faces for her. Some of them are more realistic, and then it goes into something more stylized, and this one has less of a jaw, so she's kind of cute and squishy. Yeah, these are just ideas that I had before getting to this one, and this was my favorite, so that's what I showed Michael. And that is the one that we ended up going with. So I took that design and I finalized it. So this is the time lapse of me doing that. I changed a couple of things, like the pattern on her back is a little bit different at the end. I was playing around with her colors, trying to see how her final form would look when she ended up having the whole rainbow on her. So I was exploring what base colors she could she could be green with a rainbow on her. She could be gray with a rainbow on her. She could be rainbow with a rainbow on her. So I was really just exploring while keeping in mind that she's supposed to be all rainbow by the end. Here we go. We're getting closer to what her final transformation will look like. I'm kind of like filling in the individual colors now and making it blend together on her skin, and then have each stripe be the solid color of each one that she gains on her journey. So there we go. This is getting closer to the final candy. I played around with putting scales in between each of the stripes and how the scales could kind of be the color of the one before. So right here in this area, the scales could be red, and then on the yellow, the scales could be orange, and then on the green, yellow, and so on. So this is, yeah, getting into her final transformation look, where she's got that rainbow gradient and then a bunch of different colors next to each other, kind of just crazy and fun. I really wanted her final look to feel powerful and happy and look like a celebration. Then I start going into what she would look like first. I didn't want her to be green. We wanted to gray it down a little bit, to dull it down. I decided to give her kind of a greenish gray color to begin with. So I wanted to make this color chart of Candy so that I could understand how she would look on each page with every color that she gains throughout the whole journey that she's going to go on. So it starts with red, and then she goes into orange, but she keeps part of the red on her tail, and she keeps the red stripe. And from there, you can just see how every color gets added on, and every stripe changes until she is completely rainbow. So now that we had Candy's design all figured out, it was time to move on to the book cover. So I had to do the front and the back cover, but the first one I did was the front cover. The publisher was actually requesting having the front cover ready so that they could post about the book on social media. And starting with the cover before anything else felt a little bit intimidating because one, it is the first thing that people will see, and whatever I did on the cover would be the style that I would have to replicate for the rest of the story. So I really wanted to do a good job with it, of course, because it would serve as a really good guideline for everything else I needed to do. So for starting the cover, I gathered references right over here of picture books that I really liked the cover of, ones that caught my eye. I liked them for different reasons. Maybe I liked the font, or this one has a chameleon on it. Oh, not that one. This one. So I was just using these as inspiration as I started making my thumbnail sketches. I definitely recommend keeping the size of your book in mind before starting on cover designs. So I made sure to make a shape that was 8 by 10 because that was the size of the book. And here I am starting the thumbnail sketches. I wanted to keep the title in mind as I made these thumbnails because the title is a huge part of the cover. So I had this idea of maybe the cover had just Candy as the main focus, and she would be big in size and have the title actually on her back instead of a pattern. I thought that might be kind of cute, and she could have her dragonfly right here. I knew I wanted her kind of in the center of the composition, so this is another idea that I was working with. I like to work in color first. Sometimes the ideas come to me with full color, so I just wanted to start painting and see what I could come up with there. Very simple. She's just in the middle of nature, and there's the title right there. And then this one is a little different. This is her looking at her reflection, and she would be in color looking at her reflection in gray because she's going from gray to color. Then I took those ideas, I took them a little bit further. I added some color, different fonts. This one I went more detailed into the color. I was really trying to figure out how the words would look, or maybe what colors the words could be against an already colorful background and how that can be balanced. So I kind of decided on having colorful, the middle word, be rainbow, and then having the other two words be blue. This is another fun idea where she's standing on a rock and the rock has the title on it, but it's just kind of, the composition would be surrounding the title like that. This is another reflection idea I was thinking about. I forgot about that. Okay, and as I scroll forward a little bit more, down here is where I started really understanding what I wanted. I wanted her in the center, and I wanted her dragonfly next to her. Up here, I was playing with the dragonfly being up over the words, but I really liked how it looked with them together. Figuring out what color the dragonfly would be. I was playing around with having Candy look at the dragonfly. I don't end up keeping that, but it was just a fun option. I ultimately decided that it was better for her to look at the viewer instead. And here is the time lapse of the final front cover. One thing I do recommend that I wish I would have done and didn't do was make my canvas CMYK, especially if you're working in Procreate. Before you start, just make it CMYK. It's much easier because I started in RGB, which is the default setting, and when I changed it to CMYK, a lot of the colors changed, so I did have to end up editing it a little bit. So I just recommend starting with CMYK from the beginning. I did that with the rest of the illustrations in the book, and I thanked myself for it later. But yeah, here we go. Very colorful. There's Candy and her dragonfly. For the words, I ended up going with this style, and I had a lot of fun making the letters. I don't know, lettering is very fun for me sometimes, and this one I kind of wanted to add elements of Candy in there. For example, the D kind of looks like the shape of her head. If you can see this curve right here, the D has that. The lines on the letters kind of go from thin to thick. Same as her legs, they start from thin to thick down here with her feet. I put her eye as the O, and I added little swirls here and there to represent her tail. There was a lot of leaves and details to balance with color and light, and making sure the shapes also weren't too repetitive. I was okay with some repetition because it kind of was a visual language for the plants, so that's okay. I just didn't want it to repeat too much to where it was distracting. I added this aura, or kind of energetic body, around her because when she gains her colors, she feels so powerful and so happy. So I wanted her to really have that energy flowing from her and show that on the cover. And I like how right here I was able to extend it into the eye, and it just feels very powerful in my opinion. I really like that. And I added some sparkles to make it feel even more magical. I put little hints to the animals that she'll meet. There's a ladybug down here and 2 butterflies up here. I put texture on the words, and I added some trees in the background. And at the end, it looked like this. I was really happy with the way that this turned out, and Michael really loved it, and he sent it to the publisher, and they said it was stunning, which I thought was amazing. I was so happy. So yeah, everybody ended up liking this. I'm really, really happy with it, and I had so much fun making this piece. We have a visitor. Hi, this is Lumi. Say hi, Lumi. My puppy. That's my baby girl over there. Hi, baby. Hi. This bed is basically hers. So now that we had a front cover that everybody was really happy with, it was time to do the back cover. Here I was going into ideas for the back cover. So I thought it would be cute to have a branch wrapping around the composition like this, and having Candy on the branch looking out into the world that she wants to venture off into. So I'm starting her out in her greenish color, and I have the words in mind, the words that are going to be on the back of the book, the little barcode. So just keeping in mind things that will be on there that are not the illustration that I need to work around. I put it right here so that I could see it more clearly and understand how big it would be. And then I'm kind of just going through coloring that and understanding maybe how the branches could frame the composition. And then another option was having her friend, her turtle friend that she meets later in the book. I don't know, I just love the idea of the turtle. Here's a clearer drawing of her on the back of the turtle. So that was just an idea, but I ended up going with something like this. And now we're on to the back cover process. So before, in my previous sketch, my thumbnail, you can see it kind of popping up here and there, I had more branches going on. So I decided to simplify it with just this one longer branch and then a little one down here. And then Candy would go right here in this spot. There she is. So I was plotting everything out, putting the trees in the background, having this rainbow right here. I started sketching Candy and trying to understand how her face would look from a side profile. There, she's a little bit more clear now. You can kind of see it coming together. I really liked this idea of her being gray and looking into the distance at the rainbow. It's a little bit of foreshadowing about what she'll become. A lot of figuring out little colors and details. I'm adding some background leaves to kind of make it feel like a lush jungle. I wanted it to feel very vibrant and then keep her gray among all the colors. And it ended up like this. And this is what the two covers look like side by side. I'm so happy with the result. I think they look really great together. Now that the front and back cover are finished, we can move on to the book dummy and the color script. I'll let my past self tell you a little bit about those. So after I finished the front and back cover, I went on to the book dummy, which is one of my favorite parts. I love the book dummy. It's kind of like a storyboard for your book. So this means basically planning out the image for every single page. You have your story, you have your script, so now you have mental images to create for the story to come together. So I took my images from my book dummy and I put them into a file to color them. And that way I can have these rough color keys to refer back to when I end up rendering my pages in the final steps. This is what the rough color keys look like. I really just took my rough book dummy sketches and went in there, kind of like put them in multiply and colored underneath the multiply JPEG image. Melancholy, stagnant, these are the kind of emotions that I wanted for this page. The next one is fear and sadness, mystery, wonder, new journey, and admiration. And this is the part when she starts gaining her colors. So strength and hope for red, orange, transformation when she meets the butterfly, bold and energetic. So I'm making notes of what the whole page is about, so that when I zoom out, I can kind of make sure that the idea in its purest form comes through the color palette, if that makes sense. So kindness, love, fresh musical flow. I wanted this to be blue and feel really airy, with the bird character and Candy singing and everyone dancing. This is when she finally finds her tree. So it's a very special moment and she gains the color purple. She goes back home and tries to tell everyone about her tree and her adventures, but the other chameleons are still very scared and want to stay in the dark. So this emotion is like in hiding, fear, but then she is the one with hope. This is sadness and defeat when no one wants to go with her. And then one chameleon decides to be brave and check out her tree with her. So this is them in the end. They're all together on the tree and everyone is happy and free. Now that the book dummy and all the colors are sorted out for the story, the last step is to start the final illustrations. That will be the last step for this video. So I hope you enjoy watching my process of pages 1 and 2, from sketch to line work to final color and final render. Take it away, past self. And now we're getting into the line work of the first 2 pages, or the first 2-page spread. I'm excited, oh my gosh, it's like happening. I'm doing the line work now. It's becoming official. This is my clean sketch of pages 1 and 2. It's like just more planned out. It's still in the rough stage, but it's definitely clear. I can always like clear it up more with the line work, but I wanted to really plan out this page since there's so much foliage and characters and elements happening here. As you can see, like it almost looks like clean line work, but it's really not when you zoom in. As you can see here, it's more of a sketchy line. These leaves are like intersecting with the background, so I'll show you what I've got so far. I lowered the opacity on the clean sketch so that you can see, and then this is what I've done so far. So I started with the foreground. These lines are textured, but they're much cleaner than the background. If I turn off the background, this is what they look like. So yeah, so today I'm going to be working on finishing this. Here's the clean sketch again. I'll probably go from the foreground probably to these leaves right here. The ones like over candy. I feel like these kind of look fun. So I'll probably start there and then branch out, literally. So as you can see, I did these leaves and I started doing the trees and some more foliage. I did a little bit of background stuff over there. I didn't do the characters, I'm waiting because I want them to be their own separate thing. I kind of like, I went to a stopping point because I started outlining these trees in the background and getting into the nitty-gritty details when I really don't need to. I think in the background, I'm not gonna have as much line, so I don't wanna have to, you know, like go and do all my line work and have a lot of fun with it, and then when I go to the color, I'm just gonna erase those lines anyway because they're in the background. They don't need to be super detailed. Now I'm just gonna go into coloring. I started with Candy, so I started just like coloring her body, but that's pretty much it right now. I'm gonna start coloring this piece, and when I get to a good spot that I feel I can share with you guys, I will share with you. I'm hoping it'll be the color block-in at least that I'll remember to record myself, but if I don't, I will show you guys the final rendered version. So stay tuned. Hi, I just barely remembered to record myself, so here I am, and I have the color block-in done. Let me show you. This is what it looks like right now. I've got all my colors for the most part, and now I'm going into the detailing. I started right here with these leaves. So I'm like adding a little texture and some lines that I kind of like to do in my paintings. Right here too, and this. I just worked on this little guy. I like where this is going so far, and I'm trying not to be too precious or perfect with it. Part of me really wants to zoom in and get into the really tiny details, but I have to remind myself that the viewer probably isn't going to notice those things. So I'm trying to like zoom out as much as I can, fill it in quickly and go with the flow. When I finish it, I will show you guys, of course. Let's get back to painting. Done, even though I feel like I could always add more. Maybe later I'll add different lighting and stuff, but I don't know. I guess I'm just used to using more saturated colors, and that's why this piece has been so great to work on, because I have to hold myself back and keep it in the grays, because that's what the part of the story is about. She's starting off in her gray, dirty, kind of like rundown world that she is kind of bored of and feels like there needs to be more. Like she knows that there's more in her heart and she wants to go, eventually she's gonna go explore with her dragonfly friend and meet new friends. So yeah, I think I like how it turned out. And that concludes pages 1 and 2, which is my first spread in Candy's colorful world. Yay! The next part of the series will be more like a vlog style of me from the past actively creating the book. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, I'll see you in part 2. I really enjoyed making this video and I hope you guys enjoyed watching it. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!